How are you?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. I thought you
Yep. I'm assuming we have Dave sitting where Tammy's at.
Yes.
I can't see the nameplate, so I'm assuming we're all in the right spot. All right, I apologize to everyone. We ran a little late in our executive session. Do I have a motion to come out of executive session and convene in open session?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Cassie, second by Jenny. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hope not. Okay. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I think our first order of business, Mr. Thomas, is to swear somebody in.
That's correct.
So we'd like to welcome Dave Peterson. Dave was named by the school board to replace the vacancy left by Tammy Walker. And Mr. Peterson, you get to step to the front and be sworn.
Get sworn.
We'll swear it.
Let's put you where we can get a good picture.
Yeah, without me in it, Sheila.
No fingers over his head.
Give us your best pose, David. All right, raise your right hand, please. Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support,
I do solemnly swear that I will support,
obey, and defend
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wyoming,
and the Constitution of the State of Wyoming,
that I have not knowingly violated
that I have not knowingly violated
any law related to my election,
any law
related to
related
my
to my
election
election
or appointment,
or appointment,
or caused it to be done by others,
or cause for it to be done by others.
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Congratulations.
All right, now that we have a voting board member, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda.
Do I have a second by Kay or Caleb?
Caleb.
Caleb. A second by Caleb. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, we are on track. We do need to reorganize the board a little bit. With the vacancy of Ms. Walker, we lost our official board clerk. So I need nominations for a new board clerk. And I'm hearing crickets. It's not a good sign. Anyone? Anyone?
I nominate Cassie Torres.
Okay. We have a motion, second, a nomination for Cassie and a second. Terrific. Any other nominations? Great, I'm closing nominations. Cassie, are you willing?
I was gonna say not me, but I guess.
All right, all those in favor of naming Cassie as our board clerk, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, besides Cassie? All right, yay, we have a clerk.
You don't.
And I'm sure Sherry will get you all the paperwork you need, if she needs it. Okay, and again, we have one more vacancy to fill with the departing, so to speak, of Ms. Walker, and that is one of our board positions on the BOCES board. So we need to figure out who's going to do that.
Madam Chairman, I move that we appoint Mr. Peterson for that position with the BOCES board,
Okay?
since he is filling her shoes.
I would second that.
And it was second by Cassie. Okay. Any other nominations for that? Are you willing?
Yes, I will.
All right, fantastic. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
Can I add one thing to that?
Yes, please.
That board has gone from 7 to 5.
Oh, okay.
And it's still in a, something to do with the state, that the Rock Springs group approved it over there. So if they feel it'll go the next step, and if it does, then we won't need to be on.
Then we don't need to have the 2 seats.
Right, we'll have 3.
Oh, we'll have
They'll
3.
have 2,
Okay,
but we
Great.
already have the 3.
We already
Caleb,
have-
myself, and Krista are on that board along with,
fantastic. So you might be off the hook, is the
Yeah.
good news.
unless one of those others want to bail.
I'll trade you.
We'll kick the tire on that one. I just wanted to give you an update on
Oh,
that.
that's good to know.
Okay.
All right, we have next our consent agenda items, which are the minutes from the regular meeting on September 3rd and the special meeting on September 19th, the payment of bills, a second reading for policy JGD, which is the suspension or expulsion, and the second reading of JG, student discipline. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda items, or does anybody want to pull one?
Second that motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda, and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
Madam Chair, I need to abstain from approving check number 110382 to Two Guys Flooring in the amount of $1,185.
Great. All right, any other discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, and then the abstention is noted by Cassie. Okay, we're on to school reports. Who's up?
Who's on first?
Who's on first? I got a race.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. I just want to take a minute and share some of the great work that's happening at Clark Elementary. I had the opportunity to take a team of, there were 5 of us, along with Aspen and North, to the PLC cohort training supported by the WDE the last 2 days, or the last 2 days of last week, so Thursday and Friday of last week. And I just want to share with you the work that we're doing at Clark. So I'm really excited about the collaboration that's happening with our teachers and ensuring the high levels of learning for all of our kids. We are working together to answer questions like, what do we want kids to know and be able to do? And what are we going to do when the kids know it? And what are we going to do when they don't yet? And we have a plan together to support all of the kids from if they don't have it yet, all the way to they've got it, now what are we going to do with them? We are getting really clear about what that means. From kindergarten to 5th grade, we have implemented a win time, which is what I need time, to ensure that all of our kids get the support that they need, again, if they've got it or if they don't have it. So that's really, really exciting work that's taking place at Clark. I'm really proud of the staff, and that includes all of our support staff as well, including our specials teachers. It's all hands on deck, and we are...
Those are big steps forward.
Yes. So I'm very, very proud of my staff. We also have a couple of exciting things happening this month of October. We're focusing on kindness, and so we're trying something a little bit different with our Red Ribbon Week. Instead of just focusing on drug and bully awareness for that 1 week in October, we're going to try focusing on kindness and awareness the whole month of October, with the culminating activity on the last day of the quarter, which is October 25th, in sort of a celebration way. And then we have our annual mini Olympics coming up, which is super exciting and super fun for our kids and our staff. Our 5th graders have been working hard. They've selected a team of students from kindergarten through 5th grade, and they've gotten in groups of 2 to 3 5th graders. They've selected a country, so they are preparing a presentation that they're going to be sharing with their teams on Monday. So the team will get together and learn about a specific country, and then on Friday they'll represent that country doing various Olympic activities outside and inside. It's our whole school is open to the Olympic events.
I just want to know this time of year, is it winter or summer Olympics?
Well, we're hoping for summer.
Good
We're not
luck.
quite there.
That's what I was waiting.
Yeah, that's why we're trying to do it earlier this year. It's next Friday, October 11th, from 1 to 3:30, so you're all invited to come. and witness the great things that are happening. So the teams earn points based on the events, but also they earn points by knowing facts about their country, and if they're all working as a team, if they're moving from place to place as a team, and in an orderly fashion. So it's a good opportunity for us to build teamwork and awareness of outside of Wyoming, as well as just a fun experience for students that kind of lasts for a long time. And they
Sounds like fun.
Look forward to it. So
Yeah.
Great.
it's a little bit
Yeah.
of that part.
Good job.
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
Madam Chair, members of the board, just want to, from Davis Middle School, welcome Board Member Dave Peterson. Appreciate your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
And look forward to working with you. Also appreciate Student Lundholm for representing our student body.
Thank you.
So, again, I'm going to go back to the board goal of social emotional, because I really want to press on that I think our district is doing some outstanding work. So, right now, all of us as administrators, this last month, we have been doing our intakes with all of our teachers, where they're setting a student achievement goal, and they're setting a personal growth goal or instructional goal for themselves. And I just met with Kate Lester. She is the counselor at Davis Middle School, and two of her goals for this year centered around that board goal of social emotional. So she will be in October doing a needs assessment on all 325 students at Davis Middle School, and then we'll be spending her Fridays coming back to those needs assessments to say, are there kids who've identified that they're struggling with bullying, they're struggling with friendships, they're struggling with grief, and then she'll organize groups that she'll meet with on Friday to address that needs assessment. Then I wanted to take just a minute. I had the opportunity that I enjoy so much being in court, and it was such a pleasure to hear one of our judges stop, focus on Gina Martin, who is the consulting teacher, meaning she's over the special ed department at Davis Middle School, and directly say that in all of his years, he's never seen a plan so well put together, and then came back to the parents and students and said, I hope you appreciate the supports that this school and this consulting teacher have put in place for your daughter.
Wow, that's nice.
Very impressed, yes.
We don't hear that. And
we never
Cassie
hear
would say,
that.
we don't hear that. That's great.
Then Wednesdays, every Wednesday morning, she meets with her special ed team without fail at 7:20 every Wednesday morning. Every night, I see as from my office window, her shuttling kids an hour and a half after school home, and then heading off to see her daughter play volleyball. She also teaches an after-school reading intervention class for 20 students. Those students are all what we refer to as high basic in their literacy skills, and her goal is to work with them for this entire year with the idea of moving them from basic to proficient. And she uses the research-based program Read 180 to support those students. Then every Thursday night after school at 3 o'clock, all of the paraprofessionals at Davis Middle School meet for 40 minutes with Mrs. Martin, where she's training, providing in-service for them, which really is unprecedented. They have weekly training opportunities with her. As a principal, she's the one who always goes with me on home visits. And one thing that she has put in place at Davis Middle School with our behavior students that are high-impact students, we don't want to be reacting to them, we want to be proactively out in front of them. And one thing that she has done for 3 years now that has just proven itself to be the right thing, with our high-impact students, every week she meets with those parents. So there's a team meeting every week with those parents to say, here's where your child's at, here's how they're doing on their growth plan, here's how they're doing on their behavior plan, and what we have found is those parents then are now seeing us as partners as opposed to in opposition. And so we just praise Gina Martin for the great work she's doing at Davis Middle School.
That's terrific. Thank you.
That is great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for sharing.
That's amazing.
Well, I'll just talk this way. Madam Chair, members of the board, my PE voice, if that's okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it's working,
I don't
but
think it's working
speak
really.
loudly,
I
so.
will, yeah, I don't mind. A couple quick things. One, we just had our walkathon. It was under the sea beam, and our 4th, 5th graders run first thing in the morning. That was Friday. It was raining. They were under
Well,
the
they were under the
sea.
sea.
Right, and our specials teacher squirt them with squirt guns and throw sponges at them anyway. We were wondering, okay, what type of turnout we had. We saw lots of parents there. Our goal in the past has been to raise $10,000. We decided to up the ante and shoot for $12,000, and we're I think the money's still trickling in a little bit. We seem to be about $200 shy of that, so we're pretty pumped to almost reach our goal of $12,000. We have a wonderful PTA, about 70 or so members, and just grateful for the work that they do. And that $12,000 is spent back to help Uinta Meadows in all kinds of different ways. And so just pleased that our fundraiser went so well last week and had such a great turnout. The other part, the other thing I want to share is the work we're doing around the social and emotional learning of our kids. We talk about attendance being a goal that we have every year. Kids can't learn if they're not in seats. And part of it is if they're in seats but their behavior is so poor that they're taken out of the classroom, or it's impeding the learning of other kids. And that's a delicate balance, right? Because every child has a right to learn, but at what point is it the behavior impeding the learning too much of the rest of the kids? It is a delicate balance, and I will tell you it's a struggle to kind of walk that line with when that kiddo needs to be removed, and how do we support them academically as if they're out of the room for X amount of time during the day, and what do you do to give them the training, the skills they need social and emotionally to get back into the classroom. So I'm thankful for what we're doing. We have 4 of our teachers, our counselor, our behavior coach, and Jana Lee Hamblin, who has now gone kindergarten to support center, is what we've called that specific place or room. And so she is, and myself, we are giving the second step lessons, a social emotional program to help train kids and be proactive as kind of a tier 1 approach. Normally counselors do that in as many classes as they can, but the 4 of us have tackled that across the school, and we're seeing some good things with that, good feedback from teachers, carving out 30 to 40 minutes once each week or so. It takes about 25 to 27 lessons a year to get through in each grade level, so it's a lot. There's not one person that could teach whatever that would be, 160 some odd lessons throughout a year. So we're tag teaming that. And in those kiddos who continue to struggle, those tier 2 behaviors, we have a behavior coach, but then what about the kids who we would say are not tier 3 kids, but they exhibit tier 3 really struggling behaviors? What do you do for those kids? Well, we developed something at our school with support of our superintendents and Matt Williams, with a school of our size, to have something called our support center, and boy, that is helping us. We've been able to identify about a dozen or so kids who need extensive support, put some paras and aides with Jana Lee Hamblin, write behavior plans for those kids, and they coordinate and meet weekly with the classroom teacher in terms, in a nutshell, how much time should this kiddo be in the classroom, at what parts of the day are they in the classroom and with somebody, and at what parts of the day do they need to be out of the classroom, not in isolation, but being taught curriculum, social emotional or academic, with the ultimate goal of being back in the classroom full-time without support. But we know that some kiddos can't just do that overnight. They need kind of a hard reset, right? That let's go ahead and pull you out and give you the tools that you need. So that's been going really, really well for us. So trying to attack really the attendance goals that we have, the behavior goals, as well as the academic. And I know Superintendent Thomas is going to share with you here in a few minutes our school performance ratings. And I'm really pleased. I think all of the schools did very, very well. I just want to share with you what I'm excited about in terms of our growth in 4th and 5th grade, because it's the only measurement that you have is 4th and 5th grade. 3rd grade is a baseline test, and K through 2 is a different, not so summative, 12 questions, you gain a few things from it, but it's not a diagnostic. So when they come into 3rd grade, you get your baseline score, what happens in 4th and 5th grade, and I just want to share with you quickly at Uinta Meadows, so 3rd grade in 2017-18 to then 18-19. So last year's scores, we know that if you have, for example, 60% of your kids proficient in 3rd grade ELA, if you can move about 5% of them in a year, believe it or not, that's pretty good growth, to take 5% who were basic or below basic and move them to grade level. So anything above 5% is pretty darn good. In 3rd grade, in ELA, we were able to, 3rd to 4th grade and 4th to 5th grade, I'll combine both of them together, we had 18 percentage points of growth. We moved 18% more kids into proficiency from 2 years ago to last year on the state assessment on YTOP. And well, how did the state do? If you combine 4th and 5th grade, the state went down 2% and from 3rd to 4th, and they went up by 7% in 5th. That's 5 points. We went up by 18. Pretty pumped about that. That's not even, I'm just excited about it. I don't really have words, I guess. Really excited about that. In the year before that, right, so now we're going back 3 years to 2 years, well, that was pause to YTOP. Everybody went down. So how you really measure yourself is, well, how much did the state go down compared to how much we went down? And then you are comparing apples to apples. So the state went down in ELA, 3rd to 4th and 4th to 5th by about 16%, and we went down by about 13%. Okay, so that's almost a 3% increase, if that makes sense. Okay, now in math, even a little better in math, and I think that's because most of our PLC time the last 2 years has been spent developing our math essential standards, math win groups. We're tackling that this year in ELA, and I think we're all excited to see what that growth will look like moving forward. But in math, 3rd to 4th, 4th to 5th, the state went down by 6 points. That was 2 years ago when we implemented YTOP tough test, 6 points. We went up by 15 points 2 years ago. That's a 21% student difference between the state and our school. And then from last year, or 2 years ago to last year, what happened on the state assessment last year, state goes up by 6 and we go up by 18. So very excited about the school. That sounds, I don't want it to come across as bragging. That's not what it is. We have spent a lot of
bragging.
Well, the state, you guys have spent agreed to spending a lot of money to invest in this professional learning community process, and I'm just here to tell you and assure you that it's being spent the right way with the right trainings and the right people, and I can assure you it's showing up in our data.
Yeah.
It really is.
That's
So,
great.
hey, thank you very much.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How, with Jenna Lee's room,
Yeah.
how many kids on average do you have in there?
Well, it depends on how long they're in there. She has about 10 to 12 kids that are on her caseload. Some are on IEPs with behavior plans. Some are not. They're super high academically. They just have some behavior needs. So to access that room, we put a systematic protocol in place. So teachers have to go through what's called our SST for behavior, our student support team. We work with the behavior coach and the teacher. We meet as a behavior team. We try a set of interventions. We collect data. If those don't work, we try a new set of interventions behaviorally, and there's a slew of different things you can do around behavior. If that doesn't work, we then say, okay, so we've tried about a month and a half, 2 months worth of interventions, and we're not seeing the growth that we need. Jana Lee is part of all of that process because she knows some of these kids are going to end up in her lap. And so at that point, we then move to a functional behavioral assessment, or an FBA, and that, in writing that, you're essentially identifying what is the behavior and how do you fix it, and then we write a behavior plan based on that, and the behavior plan, part of that is gaining access to the help in the support center. So all kids in the support center have gone through that process. Teacher can't just go, this kid is super hard, they need to be with Jan. That's not how this works whatsoever. And if anything, teachers don't like their kids being pulled out very much. They want to do it all in their classroom, but they know it's impeding the learning of other kids. They just can't quite manage it. So I would say Jana Lee has anywhere from 10 to 12 kids. Some she only has to check in on with her 2 pairs that are assigned to her, and they're doing okay. Others, right now, 2 or 3 others who are with her like all day, and her pairs. And they're in the classroom as well, but they're like a one-to-one. They're with somebody, or one pair with maybe two of them, and like I said, meeting with teachers weekly to wean that back. How are we seeing? Can we maybe try 20 minutes independently? Let's see how that goes just during math, because that's their favorite subject. They usually do better that way, and then we come back and pick them up, and it's just a growing, ever-evolving, changing kind of process depending on the kids' needs, and if they're medicated that
And
day.
is this something we're going to start in other elementary schools? I know Diane and I have been talking because there's some issues going on in North and Emma's second grade. And I just feel like it's a struggle. It is impeding the learning of these other kids, and I just wondered if it's something that you guys are just testing this year, and maybe we're going to evolve it to the other schools, or how that's going to work.
I can't speak to Superintendent Thomas and the other schools. When I approached Dr. Ingalls and Matt Williams first, and it was really about the size of UNM Meadows, and almost 500 students and no assistant principal, and like, what do we need? And most of my time was being monopolized with this behavior meetings and with parents, and I was spending in that along with 80 staff members, between support and certified, and it was, what do you need? And it's not about me, it's about, this is what our school needs, and then I can help in other ways. And so I got the approval to go ahead and use that, and to have an extra FTE given to UNM Meadows, split between general education funding and special education. I didn't get anything in addition. What about the 2 paras? I pulled them out of general ed classrooms and put them there, but I was gifted, so to speak, based on the size of the school, the number of IEPs that we have, number of students on behavior plans. And I'm not saying I don't want my colleagues to feel as if I don't think they have behaviors in their schools. I know that there are. I think it was a sheer game of numbers, almost 500 in comparison to some of the others, and what do you need? And that was something that we really needed at UME. So for us, it's working very, very well with our systematic approach. I'm grateful for it. I can't speak to the others.
And that's a perfect answer. Principal Dastrup came to us with a need and also a solution, and we were able to budget it, and basically because of the size of their school. We knew that they needed some additional support. They came with a suggestion. We were able to support that. We do that with all our schools. What do you need? How can we help? How do we support? We typically don't throw money at situations. By hiring additional staff, we try to support in other ways. And that's what we'll do at all the schools. We'll continue that. You look at ratios of students to staff, we were a little low at UNM Meadows. So we needed to continue to look at ways to support the teachers, the students, and Mr. Dastrup at UNM Meadows. Hopefully he's done. No, just kidding. He's not. We continue to support that.
If it's successful and it works, we may want to think about it.
It's a model we can follow.
It's a model we can follow, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hamilton.
Madam Chair, Board. I'll be quick, and I know Mr. Thomas is going to share our school accountability reports, but we're pretty proud of ours. There are 21 alternative schools in the state of Wyoming, and there are only 4 that received an exceeding state expectations score, and we're one of them. So we can say we're in the top 4. Horizons doing pretty good work that way. I think we can attribute a lot of our success on that. I mean, I can go into a lot of detail about the system. It's different, and I had been working on it for years with the state and other alternative schools. I won't go into that, but what I can say is our work with the Marzano and the high reliability schools, level 1, the PLC stuff, really helped. The weight of our scores on the alt school model are on the growth measurement, and I think that the work that we've done in ELA particularly, but also in math and those curriculum areas, helped to really show growth with our students. And we've known this for years. If we have students in our school for more than a year, we're going to grow them. And if we have them for 3 or 4 years, we're going to grow them pretty fast. And that's what the results showed. And I think that really is the bulk of why we did as well as we did. There's some other indicators in there and stuff. And the state takes 2 hours to present about how they came up with everything, so I'll save that.
I don't want to.
But if you do have questions about how any of that works, I've been on the committees that have developed it and stuff over the years. I'm happy to answer those questions, but we're pretty doggone proud of that. So.
As well you should be. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I guess that's it for school reports. Hey, moving on, guess what? We get to hear all about these scores.
Yeah, they took some of my thunder.
And yes, we're very happy to see them. And congratulations to everyone who worked hard.
So hopefully, technology will not let us down.
We should probably pass this on to Jamie.
Yeah, let's go there.
You guys see that? Before I get too far into my presentation, I would like to recognize our student representative, Miss Angwin. Oh, you're not?
I'm Ashlyn Lundholm. I'm her.
You're substituting?
Yeah.
Well, Ashley, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
I'm a senior at Heavenson High School. Don't really know.
What are your interests?
Nursing and health sciences.
So not coming to boring meetings?
She looks pretty excited to be here.
But you're on the student council, right?
I am, yes, I'm the secretary.
Fantastic. We're glad to have you here.
For letting me come.
You get to hear all about how well the schools did. Right on.
I know some of you, well, it's pretty big, but I also have a hard copy for you. So on board docs, you actually have every individual school's report, so you can kind of check that out. What I've done, this is just a summary of all the schools and their accountability scores. On this chart, green is really good, blue is even better.
Okay.
And brown, we're working on that. So what you can see on the accountability scores from last year is we had 2 schools that were below, did not meet expectations. Now we have 3 schools that are partially meeting, 4 that are meeting, and 1 that is exceeding. And within those categories, again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time, you can see equity, achievement, growth, and ELP. Within those, each school really has something to cheer about. I think that's the message. We are growing, we are improving. If you look at the partially meeting, we are so close.
As I say, this is vastly improved.
Yeah, so close. And what's nice about this report drills down to the student level. So you can look at every student, which means you can look at every classroom, which means you can look at every grade level, which means you can look at every school. And that's how the principals are using these. They work on the data, they work on how these reports are used, they work with their staff. The new HRS is truly about how we use data to improve our instruction, improve our curriculum, and we can see it. This is something to really be proud of. I don't know, just like was said, is we probably don't stand up and cheer enough of how good we are doing and how good we're improving and making strides. I'm very pleased. As they said, I'm tickled. This should be something that should be shared widely, just like our HRS certification. This is something to be very proud of. We still have work, there's no doubt, but that's part of the PLC process. With the new schedule at the high school, we believe we'll make big strides now that they have opportunities to have common planning. So again, all I see is good news, I guess, as we move forward. I don't know how much detail you want me to go into this. Your individual reports are color coordinated, so if you look, that is definitely Horizons. We like the blue.
That blue on the front was a good news. Actually, I liked seeing all of them, so.
The green is exciting, the yellow, we're making great growth. One of the things that I believe we'll find out is the patterns that come out of these tests. What I worry about is if you get an exceptionally high growth one year, that cohort moves forward, it's even more challenging to get exceptional growth the next year. And so if we do move a class forward, are we almost hurting ourselves by doing that? Because once they make growth, it's harder to get that same group of kids to grow more. Same thing with achievement. If we have large achievement, if you look at Clark's achievement, 61.1, very impressive. DMS, EMS, very impressive in terms of their achievement, but we have room to grow. Below on this chart, this just kind of show you where the elementary cut scores are. If you get into that on the individual reports, you can see how close they were to meeting expectations or exceeding expectations. Horizon and the high school have different requirements, different measures, and like I said, Horizon did a great job. The more we see this each year, the more we'll be able to see patterns, and the principals will learn the patterns in them. But I do think we are going to see that you go high in one area one year, you're going to struggle that next year with that same cohort. I think we see that a little at Clark. But again, I'm not an expert on this. I'm definitely not a psychometrician. But what I see makes me happy. Any questions, comments? Principals are here if you have specific questions.
they can definitely answer those specific questions about what they see and what they're working on. But this drives instruction. If you remember, this is what one of our main goals is, that all of our schools are either meeting or exceeding expectations in all accountability efforts. And so these reports are used not only to provide staff development, but improvement efforts.
Anybody have any questions?
Looks good.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like there's not room for improvement, there always is, but
Yes.
like, as we transferred over from the pause to this new standard, I know we sort of trying to figure out what the scores mean and how they all look, and now we sort of have a comparison, so that's nice. And it's nice that the teachers can use this.
Yes.
And the schools can use this, so I hope they're happy. I think
They should
board's
be,
happy.
and maybe that's one of the things we need to do better, is celebrating our successes. And
Yeah.
we'll work on doing that.
Absolutely. No, well done. Thank you guys, everyone. Like I say, we've said it before, we appreciate so much everybody jumping in and taking what we've sort of has been thrown your way and making the lemonade out of all of it, so appreciate that. Calendar references is next.
Madam Chair, members of the board, you requested that I provide some kind of aid to help you find events or calendar items, so this is what I put together.
Okay.
I did share it with you today. If you didn't get it, let me know. And this has direct links. The very first link is to the district calendar, which you approved, but now you can get to it quickly. You click on the link, you'll go right to it. Probably the most useful is the activities, that next one down. If you click on this, it'll take you to an activity calendar, maybe.
For both high school and middle school? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
This is
okay.
what it looks like. It does have every event, 6/12.
Thank you. Now I won't get phone calls or text messages.
Let's see if I can get back now. The schools, most of our schools have some kind of calendaring. You can see that our elementaries, the high school, and Horizon's working on it. And EMS uses the activity calendar. So again, direct links to those schools if you want to see what activities are going on in those schools. And then,
I wanted the year calendar of what we have to do when on Virginia. You've done that in a Google
that's a
Doc.
calendar of agenda items for meetings of the Board of Trustees. So we
Right.
do set up that we know that in October, these are certain things we have to approve from the board, all the way through the calendar year. Sometimes they get off whack, but what I've seen, typically they're a month earlier than later, so.
Thank you. This is helpful for me because I can never remember what we're supposed to do in January and February, and so thank you.
And then the last calendar is the curriculum calendar. It shows you all of our PDs, where it's at, who's offering it, for the whole year. We'll be adding to this calendar, and with that link, you can get most updated information. Pretty impressive, the amount of resources we're bringing to bear for our staff, in terms of training and instruction, part of the HRS system.
Now, here's the real question. Will this page of calendar links be available on the district webpage?
It will be, yes.
Okay.
And all of these links, most of those links came from the
Right,
district webpage.
but like I say, but
It's not
if you
one
have
spot.
like for parent resources, a link of all the calendars that you can look at kind of thing that they can go to.
I'll do that.
It's just
Also, if there's some
helps with
calendar you
that
want, just let me know and I'll add it.
Yeah, it just helps with, transparency to try to be able to find what you're, like I say, it was the phone calls and text messages to find the activity, so appreciate that. Thank you very much. We are now at the Safety Crisis Intervention Policy, Policy JHF.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I'd invite Dustin Blair, one of our school psychologists, to come up, and he will begin the discussion about policy development dealing with this policy. Matt Williams is not in district, or he'd be here with him, so I will sit with him so he doesn't think he's the lone man, but he's the man on this.
All right.
Where would you like me to be?
How about right there? Do you need to plug in?
No, I think they have it.
Okay.
If you want to click on those.
So this is the old one.
Yes. So, Madam Chair and members of the board. Just to begin, the school psych, I guess just one, and the counselors, we've been meeting with our PLCs, we've been reviewing the student crisis intervention policy previously adopted. And some of the language in it, the adoption date, we reviewed and we said, you know, let's look at this and see if we can update some of it and make it a little easier to.
Thank you.
Yes. So that's what we've done. This is the old one. There's some references in there that we kind of no longer use, so we'd like to propose a draft for that. We like to make it short and sweet. So for the student crisis intervention, proposed JHF, just that we have guidelines in place. Regarding suicide, we have guidelines in place for risk of threat to harm.
So the policy would be very simple, and then you'd have a rule to go with the policy that has the procedures,
Regulation.
which I actually like a lot.
You can adjust that.
We did
As
a
need
lot
be.
of reviewing
Yeah.
of other districts and their policies, and we decided, you know, short and sweet's good, and then we can attach the proposed procedures to help guide us. And as we need to update those, sometimes risk assessments, threat assessments change over time, sometimes the evidence changes, and we can update that.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, and this is on for first reading tonight, or not till next month? Okay. You know, sort of this deals with, you know, what to do when there are threats, whether it's a suicidal threat or a harm to others and that kind of stuff. I know the state of Utah has rolled out this lovely app on that suicide prevention. Is the state of Wyoming doing anything similar? Do we know, or?
They do have some.
It's a really nice app.
Safe to Tell app is what Wyoming uses.
Right.
And several states actually use that. And it's anonymous reporting.
Right.
And then it goes directly, I believe it, correct me if I'm wrong, the SRO.
It does.
And the principals are the ones that receive that information.
Okay.
And I'm also notified.
Do the kids know about the app?
They do. We have it, we actually had a training last year. We'll have a refresher this year. The kids were introduced to it. There's posters in the halls.
Okay.
And like I said, we just heard there's a refresher course we'll send our counselors to, and that's how the message will get out to the kids. But we are getting reports, so it is out there.
Okay. Terrific. Thank you.
There are other...
Especially with the holidays coming up, you know.
There are other documents that we'll bring forward to, they're called evidences? No, what are they called? What are those other documents, Sherry, that we have?
Regulations?
No.
We have regulations. Exhibits. And basically all it is the paperwork that we follow and how we document this. So that'll also be attached to policy JHF.
To the regulation,
Yeah.
okay.
And again, having them as exhibits or regulation allows us to have some
To change them.
flexibility.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for taking that on. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Next is our procurement policy. John, I'm assuming this is you?
Yes. Madam Chair, members of the board, we introduced this last month. I assigned Mr. Williams to this because of the kind of the complexity. This always seems to be driven by food service procurement, but we have a lot more in that policy. So that's why we had John go through it. John has kind of a PowerPoint that's going to run you through this because we need some of your feedback before we put some of this together. Things have changed, and what I keep telling John is the old 10,000 is now the new 25,000.
Right.
And we need to talk about what the board expects and how you want us to do that, and John is well prepared to do that for you. So I'm just going to sit and clap.
It's like I've got an external monitor.
That was some protractors. Engineered.
Talk amongst yourself.
No, I did it.
Yay, it's breathing.
That's a lovely scene.
I had an extra monitor. Okay. Madam Chair, members of the board, as Superintendent Thomas has discussed or introduced, he's tasked me with this purchasing. So what has happened is, first off, the food service thing has pushed a need to define different purchasing strategies and things statewide, actually nationwide. And then Copenhaver, who's the school board's attorney.
The Wyoming Association, yeah, not us. Yeah.
Wyoming School Boards Association attorney pushed out some model policies. So I've been spending the last 2 weeks kind of looking through this, trying to get a handle on this whole thing. Now, what I want, as I started to analyze this, really one of the first questions out of the gate is the idea of sole source or non-sole source. Now, some of you might say, well, what are you talking about? And sole source is basically when you decide to not follow the normal protocol. So as it says, sole source purchasing allows for non-competitive procurement. You're not going to go out for bid. But in order to do that, you've got to provide written justification that this is a good purchase. You can't just go and say, hey, I'm gonna go buy XYZ because, we think it's good. Now, you're going to see things in white and yellow. If it's in white, that means I can find reference to it in the model policy that Copenhaver's given. If it's in yellow, that means I can't find anything referencing it, and I think we need to add it.
Okay.
Okay? So one of the things that has happened is that federal purchases, I went and found this thing from the Department of Justice about sole sourcing. We can justify sole sourcing if we follow a series of things that, protocols. But there's a limit to what we can do by ourselves. And if that limit is now $250,000. If we go over that, we're buying something for $250,000, then we need to let the Department of Justice know. Now, in the 12 years I've been here, I can think of one purchase maybe that we did long ago. So it's not something that I think we're going to see. Remember, this is mostly coming from federal purchases. So what are they? They need to meet one of three criteria. One is that it's really a single source, and I'll define what that is in just a second. It can be a public emergency. It can have inadequate competition. And if we go that direction, we need to make sure that we're not doing conflict of interest. In other words, we've got employees or staff or somebody or board members. It follows the protocols and policies that we have, and it follows the law. And if you notice in white on the policy that I sent you, there is a reference to it, and it says federal sole source needs to have prior approval from WDE. I don't know if that's something that Copenhaver added. I can't find it in statute. I can't find anything that says you have to have WDE's approval.
It doesn't say that in the statute.
And so I'm going, I think you added it.
This was one of the first times I've ever seen that Copenhaver came out with the policy and WDE came in and added things. And they added it in a different color, but still, I've never seen WDE do that. So
why would they want to know?
And why do we need to get pre-approval?
School district's sole source purchase.
I mean, is there been an abuse? Do we know of an anecdote?
I don't know. So here's who I've spoken to on the state level. I've spoken to the chief procurement officer of the state of Wyoming, and as well as some of the title procurement or the title directors, Title II in this instance, and I've given them the Department of Justice thing and said, are we out of line if we go this direction? So I'm going to hear back from them in a little bit. Okay, so let me kind of just quickly go through what a sole source does. We can't just unilaterally say, well, we're going to sole source. You've got to do some type of research on it. And so think of Marzano, okay? We've kind of done that. Marzano is being, excuse me, Mr. Peterson, Marzano is who we're talking about with these professional developments. He's a consultant.
Okay.
He's got high reliability schools. And we're using Title II money to pay for it, federal money. And we can't just say, well, we really like him. He does good work. He may do good work, but somehow, if we're going to say that it's sole source, we've got to go out and do some independent research.
And justify why we're not bidding.
That's right. And we need to write it down. The second thing, it can be a unique item. It can be a software that, gosh, there's only one vendor that does this software. It is available from one source. This wording right here comes from the Department of Justice verbatim. It has contractor's expertise. Okay, so if we go into that first reason, that's the thing. It can be a public emergency, so we can spend on federal money immediately or soon if there is a natural disaster, if there's a declared state of emergency, or there's immediate health and safety. We can say, hey, we're going to go sole source right now because of the following reasons. We document it, but the PO goes out the next day. It can be purchased under the idea of inadequate competition if you know and you can document that there's really only one vendor that does it. But what they're interested in is the pricing fair and reasonable? How do you know that you're not being taken because there's only one vendor that does it? Okay. And how do you know that there's competition out there? And somehow we end up documenting that. And with all of them, that we need to make sure that there's no conflict of interest. They haven't been debarred, which means that basically on the naughty list. And they're in compliance with our policies, the state laws, and with the federal government. Okay, so with that statement, really what we're talking about is at times the district needs to have sole source purchasing ability. And I think that needs to be part of the policy as it's written. Second question is, are we spending federal dollars or are we spending non-federal? So federal funds really are doing the title grants, Title I through Title VI and Perkins, which is the vocational spending, and school lunch
I was going to
funds.
say that the food is federal.
And food.
That's why this drives this policy.
Yeah. So if yes, so we say it's not sole source, but then it's yes, it is federal funds, then the next question is dollar amount. So if there's $25,000 formal purchase, then we need to go out for either an invitation for bid, and we have at least 2 bids, or an RFP. Now, an invitation for bid basically means cost is the only consideration. That's it. A request for proposal, cost is a major consideration, but we're also adding, it needs to do this and this, and you put a little bit of
service, timing, whatever else we're looking for.
Parameters to go with that.
Quality,
Yeah.
exactly.
So we can send out 2 different ways of that. If it's more than $25,000, the federal statute and the state says that it needs to be printed once in local and once in the statewide paper. I didn't know that. And so we're gonna.
We've always done it.
Well, the statewide part.
We've always done the local. I don't know if we've always done the statewide. Because we don't really have one other than, I guess you could call it Casper Star.
Yes, Casper Star is the statewide,
Yeah.
probably. And once it goes into the Casper Star side, then it hits the bid wires.
Have they heard about the internet and, websites that you can publish this on?
That was a discussion.
That was a discussion in the
Last
state.
legislative session, and they came back to the
No,
papers.
I mean, I don't mind the papers too, but come on, guys.
Well, we do both.
Have them declare the state paper,
Yeah,
because
that?
it could be out of Cheyenne.
well,
Yeah, exactly.
it can be out of Cheyenne, and so, one thing that's not in this policy that I think needs to be added is the idea of using other people's bids. Northeast Wyoming BOCES and the National Association of State Purchasing Officials bid out on occasion certain things. For instance, and this is something that's benefited the school district, we did the scoreboard with Northeast Wyoming BOCES. Believe it or not, they had done a scoreboard bid like 2 years before. The bid was still open. So we got their bid and said, yeah, put us on that.
And we're able to
use the
piggyback?
pricing.
Okay.
We piggyback. And so they've done the request for proposal, they've done the notification in the statewide paper. I don't think they do it in the local. But in talking with our state procurement officer, she said, yes, please do that. It's a good way of doing it.
It's also where we purchase our buses.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, I know it seems like the state has a list of state vendors that they already deal with,
Pre-approved?
pre-approved state vendors kind of thing, that we can also do that?
Yes. And a lot of times that's with, they do NASPO bid.
NASPOs.
Okay.
With it. It used to be called WISCA. NASPO took WISCA and made it part of their own.
Okay.
WISCA was Western, States Cooperative, NASPO is a national. And so they'll do these governmental bids throughout the nation, and it's, a good price. But if you notice, it's not in the Copenhagen policy, and I'm saying, yeah, let's put that in there.
Well, we want to be able to use that. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So kind of the quick way of, we clarify to any bidders, so we put out this thing, we evaluate it, maintain documentation. Okay, you can read that, but that's kind of the,
Big key there is board approves any purchase over $25,000.
yeah. So this one is really where I'm gonna need direction from the board.
Because right now it's over 10,000, right? And you guys are upping it to 25.
We're
No.
asking your opinions.
Okay,
25.
The proposal is up at
Anything
25.
over 25 requires that,
yeah.
those procedures.
We gotta go if it's over
We've
25,000.
always followed that.
Okay. Now, 10 to 25,000 is also a competitive bid. Solicitation needs to be written. You need to get at least 2 vendors, but if somebody doesn't answer their phone or whatever, they didn't send the bid back, sorry, we tried and things. We receive, we make the price, contract is issued, procurement documentation. We need to add that piece in there. Now, here's the decision point. And there's really 3 levels that I can see in here. First off, does the board, if we have some purchase between $10,000 and $25,000, think of the laser printer that came, $17,000. Do you want, every time we make a purchase like that, federal, to have somebody come and make a presentation? And then you would.
And that we would have to vote on it in an open
You have to make
meeting.
it in an open meeting and things. Or, that's level 1. Level 2 is the person who's needing to do this puts it in a memo. We need to make a purchase of a laser printer, and you put it in consent agenda. It can be removed out of consent agenda if you want, but the board then approves that. Or you say, hey, look, if it's between 10 and 25,000, that's fine, we will approve it through the payment of bills,
Assuming it's been budgeted.
assuming it's been budgeted.
So that's really the key is, all these purchases, you guys approve through payment of the bills. The difference is that next step, 10 to 25,000, do you want us to bring that, do a formal presentation, go over these points? Or are you okay with
Right.
2 or 3?
Yeah. So
that's something we need.
So we'll get down to the bottom and I'll give kind of, here's
So,
what.
yeah, I mean, the balance is, do we want to do our business in open, let the public know what we're spending our money on, have a formal open meeting with a formal approval? do it through or do we want to do it through just a consent agenda? Or do we want to, is it possible for us to change the rules and say we don't even want to see it if it's been budgeted and it's less than 25?
That's right. I mean, that's the issue. And I don't see anything in, the thing that says, here's the way that each school district needs to go this route.
No, I mean, that really is for our policy.
That's your bottom line, you still approve all payments.
Well, and like I say, I mean, the under 25, if we go up to 25, it's assumed that whatever's being purchased has already been budgeted for, it's there, the money's there, and we've approved that budget.
And those things go into the newspaper.
And they go,
here's the payment.
It's still public, someone could see that, and then we'll call them ask about that purchase.
So that's where I'm kind of going, okay, I don't know where you would like. I can do it.
Right now, what we operate on is our procedure is
we require then over 10,000 to come and do a presentation.
10,000 comes before you approve it, actually 3 times.
Right.
You approve it in open meeting, you approve it when we do the presentation, then you approve it
in the
payment of the bills.
Yeah, the payment of the bills.
And if you notice, the federal government's basically saying, hey, it used to be 150,000 for this amount.
For their threshold.
You're going to also see in the next one, they've increased the amount. They're just saying, look.
Most states have gone to 25,000 now for the threshold.
A lot of municipalities.
A lot of municipalities and a lot of the state agencies have gone there.
Okay, so the next piece is what's called a micro purchase. And as of July 1, 2018, it used to be $3,500 for a micro purchase. It's now gone up to $10,000. And what a micro purchase is it's a small vendor purchase. Well, you might say, well, small to you, 10,000 is a lot to me. But what they're asking is that you go and you call vendors, make sure that you are spreading these purchases around.
And it's your job to document that?
Okay, yes, with all these, there needs to be documentation, okay, with this type of thing in which we call vendors, you have at least 2 vendors, must be solicited, non-response counts, receive price and rate quotes, make a purchase, contract may be issued, keep procurement documentation.
Do you have to actually call them, or can you look online?
That would be.
Count as a call?
That counts as a call.
Yeah, so
you're making contact.
Okay.
And so, Amazon or.
Print off the.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, can you look online and start shopping, if I'm buying tires, can I go to different tire stores and see what they're gonna?
But even the micro purchase, the board approves through the payment of the bills.
Right.
The main thing is that the federal government's saying, hey, we want you to make sure you're both shopping around and spreading the
public funds.
So you're not doing sole sourcing every time. That's the only place we're gonna go. So, but what if it's not a federal purchase? Well, then state statutes apply. So you're gonna say, well, all right, enough.
So we just did federal.
We just did federal. Now we're going to do stateside. All right. So if it's over $50,000, okay, remember it was $25,000, and it's part of school construction.
Right.
You can't break up the pieces. That's one of the things that's in there. But
we can't carve off just the cement from the rest of the building.
It needs to be a formal bid. It needs to be published locally and statewide. I put in the Northeast Posties, not to say that construction will come out of Northeast Posties, they're not, but let's just say maybe there's something that we could buy that's, there's a kind of an RFP, evaluate, board approved, kind of the same thing,
right.
And things. If it's 25,000, but less than 50,000, then you do a formal bid, but it only needs to be published locally. This is in state statute right now. So.
Yeah, and we are always supported through the School Facilities Commission on these dollars.
Yeah.
Right.
They help us through these processes.
Okay, if state funds.
And this is just for the construction of buildings still,
That's
not the other stuff.
Okay, so if you have engineering, architecture, and surveying services.
Those are professional services, and you can one source those, can't you? Or you can just hire what you need.
This one has some really wild rules to it.
Good grief.
Is it greater than 50,000? If so, you need to have a formal bid. It needs to be.
Seriously, for an engineer and a surveyor?
Yep, this is state law. In fact,
good night, nurse.
So it needs to be published statewide for at least 2 weeks. So it needs to be 2 weeks. You need to interview at least 3 firms, and you need to the interview must be recorded in an archive. Okay?
This is all done through the School Facilities Department and Commission.
They do it all for us.
Yes.
Well,
Sort of.
I would say mostly. There may be a thing, but that in white means, I found it in statute and things,
Okay.
other than the Northeast Wyoming BOCES. If it's less than 50,000, you don't need to do a formal interview. You can just, you don't have to tape it and things. But this bottom bullet is really the judgment. They're saying, okay, evaluate that on the A through G, which is the ability of the professional personnel and past performance and da-da-da-da. Okay? All right. The carve out for insurance, supplies, and materials. So if it's greater than 25,000, it should be bid. Now, it doesn't need to be necessarily bid every year. So for instance, health insurance, we don't bid out every year.
We do that, that's where we do the every 3 year kind of.
You've got a 5-year thing. But it does need to have a formal IFB or RFQ, probably more RFQ than
RFQ is
IFB.
what we've been doing.
Yeah, there are some, we want to have certain standards and things.
Right.
Published in a paper locally at least once, general specs available by the district, and, Northeast BOCES, NASPO, and things. If it's less than 10,000 to 25, again, we're at the decision point. How much do you want?
Where do we want our authority to go?
Yeah, where do you want it? And if it's a micro purchase, board approves the payment of bills. Okay, textbooks. They carve this out. They say textbooks. So there's nothing in statute other than it says textbooks aren't under this. So I thought, well, let's write a policy for it and keep it general. Is it more than 25,000? And the answer is...
Which is always.
Through consultation...
Unless you buy 5 books. Through
consultation and formal superintendent recommendation. We're always going to have consultation.
Right.
Whether it be a committee or, this group, or somebody's going to consult.
And we're going to test 2 or 3 different curriculums, and yeah, exactly.
And it's going to come before you're going to come before the board, you're going to... But the question is this, and this is one of the things that at the end I'm going to kind of say, okay, I need direction on. What about reoccurring textbook purchases, i.e. Eureka Math?
Right.
Okay,
we need to buy 100 more books.
Yes, well, or the printing cost for Eureka Math next year is like $30,000.
Right.
ELA, there's a more cost every year.
Right.
Do you need us to
and some of these that have the science curriculum,
yeah.
the consumables, yeah.
So the question is okay, year one, they come up and they have their little curriculum. This is the best thing, we need to buy it. Year 2, 3, do you need somebody to say, hey, and we're going to buy some consumables this year? And I don't know. This is a decision point. So
what we've always done is when the textbook committee comes before you and presents, these are the 3 we looked at. They'll always tell you what the continuing cost will be. We've never really come back to the board. It's budgeted.
Once we approve the curriculum and approve the purchase, we assume that it just goes from there. I think is the way we've done it.
Okay. So same thing with the 2010.
But we can talk about it, certainly.
So, okay. And then micro purchases. Usually micro purchases is the small, hey, we're going to buy, 100.
We don't want to look at those.
25 more. Okay, software. Software's another one. It's over 25,000. Respective department comes before the board. This is the Jaren, comes to you and says, hey, here's the thing. General specs are available to the district. Now, here's one that hasn't taken place. Okay, so back in 2005, before I was here, we went with a new accounting software. It cost us $100,000 to move across platforms and get archived information and things. But each year now the accounting software costs us $17,000
for ongoing stuff.
For ongoing. Okay, so do we need to kind of come back on that reoccurring thing? So same idea. If it's 10 to 25,000, receive department, school board recommends the board, and and the decision point that you're seeing again. So you're kind of seeing some things. Purchase services other than utilities. Is it greater than 25,000? Department or committee submits an IFB and things, and if it's, okay, same thing.
Right.
All right, so this is the last slide. And really, it's the next, you know, the thing that I would like to see is, all right, John, here's what we as a board would like you to do. First off, do you have any questions?
I don't, no. No, I mean, I thank you for doing this, John. I mean, this is an update that's needed to happen for a while, and thank you for going through and being very detailed and identifying sort of the different areas that are treated differently, whether it's federal or state, and, you know, buildings versus other stuff. I do appreciate that, and I appreciate the fact that you've made the additions that you have to the model policy we got from the School Board Association. I think that's a really good add, all of those. So I guess, you know, in terms of your questions, we'll start, I mean, let's start with the threshold question that comes up both federally and statewide, that 10 to, you know, if it's 10,000, if it's less than 10,000, none of us here expect you to bring that to us and specifically identify that I went out and bought, you know, 50 reams of paper. Nobody wants that. It's the 10 to 25 threshold. What do we want to do with that as a group?
25.
Well, 25 and above has to go to bid.
Well, 25 and above has to go to bid.
But it's the 10 to 25 is what is the question.
Yeah, so I mean,
You still need to bid it out.
yeah, you still need to bid it out, but the question is, do you want to specifically approve it either on a consent agenda or a regular agenda action item? Or do you want to just say, listen, if it's budgeted and it's less than 25, just do it?
And you'll approve it through payment of the bills.
Right.
That's what I want to do.
I do too. I agree.
I would prefer that it would be at least added to a consent agenda, just not for micromanaging purposes or anything like that, but more for transparency.
And that's where I am. I'm at a consent agenda level. I don't think we need a special presentation. I don't think we need to have a whole big discussion on it unless somebody wants to pull it off a consent agenda. But I do want the public to see, if it's over $10,000, that we're looking at it and what that's for. And so for transparency, I would like to have it at least on a consent agenda. That's where I am.
And
I would as well.
we've done that with our tech's the best example. When he lists all the software and the cost, most
Right.
of those are under 25,000, but we list them all. And we do have you approve all of those purchases.
Right.
The only difference would be that list would be before you in a consent agenda. Anything under 25,000.
Between the 10 and 25,
Yes.
yeah. 10 I don't care about.
Really, we've done that, and that was kind of our discussion, is we still think that's important, that the board puts their stamp. 10 to 25,000 to me is still a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, and it's a lot of tax dollars. And, you know, we as a board need to be accountable to the taxpayers. So I do want to be able to say, here it is on the agenda, and yes, we are looking at it. And if somebody does want to pull it, we can talk about it. But I don't see the need for doing it as an action item presentation
We'll write that
at
into the new
all.
policy.
Unless, I mean, if anybody,
No, I'm okay with consent.
are you okay with that?
Yeah.
I was on the other end of this purchasing thing, and I just saw how things escalate. And athletic equipment is what I would purchase.
Yeah.
A set of football jerseys that might have cost $18,000, then I have to wait and get approval on it, and if you don't do it by March 1st, then it's a 20% increase in price. And
Right,
all
and, you know,
that.
like I said, I hate to having, you know, we've had this, you know, where we've had items, well, I gotta get this into you right now because, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
yes.
what I like about it, going the mid route, is that you do get a memo. And that memo is public information.
Exactly.
And, you know, you're getting, here's the rationale, this is what we're doing, to think about it. That what you're not getting is people coming up and saying, hey, can I have permission to buy the laser printer?
Yeah, no, and that's the thing, like I say, I mean, I'm with Cassie, I don't want to micromanage, and a lot of municipalities have gone to the 25,000. A lot of states have gone to the 25,000 for that reason, because 10,000 doesn't mean the same that it used to mean. But I think, you know, for the time being, let's keep that middle group on a consent agenda and let's try that.
Okay.
I think that's where we have sort of consensus.
This,
I'm okay with
this
that.
policy does affect a whole bunch of other policies.
Right, so once we know that,
Yeah, so once we get this down, we can kind of go back through.
Yeah.
The textbook purchasing, we have a lot of policies.
well, and that's the second question, is the ongoing or recurring cost, the consumables versus, you know, the initial. And quite frankly, I do not need to see this back for the recurring cost when we've already approved it and gone through that formal process.
Where you'll see them is Well, for example, the curriculum department, you'll see them in their memo, they'll have them all listed.
Yeah, it's presented to us.
So if we do that the same way,
Okay.
then that's just fine and dandy unless anybody wants to really do that. Okay, and then in terms of the state notification for sole source and the way we're supposed to do it, let's do it the way we're supposed to do it.
Okay.
So we'll check on that.
Yeah, that's the thing. I have not received notification. I've got one business manager says, no, you can't sole source, and I'm thinking, I've read.
We're gonna follow the
Department of
rules,
Justice,
that's right.
I've read the CFR, I've got, I've tried to do, and I can't see where she's saying this is excluded. Now, what I don't know is are we required, if we're in sole source, we're saying, hey, this is the card we're gonna play, we gotta make the phone call for that. In talking with the Title II person, I guess what I'm envisioning is this. Let's say we've got Marzano round 2, and we go that route. Well, then the curriculum people, they're going to document, this is why it's sole source. It should be a memo, and it's kept in the Title II documentation.
See, I think that's the key to that one, is those federal grants are continually monitored. We send them in.
We have to
They'll
report
send
back
it
on those. Mhm.
They'll send them in, and finally they'll get approved. They've touched those 4 or 5 times, and they approve every federal grant, every dollar. They approve every purchase. So in that sense, I think they are being notified, and they are approving it. So I think
But I
that's
don't
what
know
they
that you
mean.
need to send it to the Wyoming School Board Association for a
No.
specific
No, no, no,
signature
no, no,
before we
no,
do
no,
anything.
Not that.
No.
So, so are there any other ideas that I may have
The State
missed?
Board of Education is who I'm thinking of, sorry,
Yeah.
State Board of Education. I
Blind
misspoke.
spots or things that, oh, you didn't think of.
John's pretty thorough.
Yeah. I was gonna say, believe me, John, if you haven't thought of it, we're not going to, so. I appreciate, this was a major task, and I appreciate the work that you've done, and I appreciate the fact that you separate out what's required for federal funding versus state funding. I mean, they're very similar. So in terms of how this reads and, just, this is the way we do it, For federal dollars, this is the way we do it. For state dollars, this is the way we do it. You break it up into the categories and.
We'll bring that
Yeah.
for first reading next month.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys will be expert on sole source.
I know. All right, we are now at, the NSBA Spring Conference in Chicago. So, this is a national conference of school boards, and it's a 2 or 3 day conference.
April 4th through the 6th.
It's April 4th through the.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Yeah, April 4th through the 6th in Chicago this year.
No, it's Friday,
any-
it's a Saturday, Sunday.
Oh, yeah, it is. It starts on,
It's
you're right.
over the
It's-
weekend.
That's right.
It's over spring break.
Sorry,
And
I was
it's,
hoping it'd be a,
yeah, I was gonna say, it's because I remember it's always on a Sunday.
Yeah, it's like always, I think Saturday and Sunday, they
This
have
is our
the
spring break.
pre-conference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
before
pre-conference on
On
Friday.
Friday, yeah, and then there's still a few things on Monday.
Yeah, like a very few things.
Yeah, so it's a weekend.
the bad news is our proposal to present at this conference was denied.
Not
It's like There was
surprised.
over, what'd they say, 400, 600 applicants for 400 slots. And so
Yeah.
we didn't get in. I do think our presentation dealt with what we went through for our security issues, including policy CKA.
Well, as I reported, I was very, very interested in attending school security, school safety kind of classes at last year's conference, actually for the last 2 years. And there just really weren't any. They were very minimal. If they were held at all, it was one of those in-between, in-between session kind of half-hour deals. And there really wasn't, which is why I thought we would submit a proposal to talk about school safety, school security, some of the measures that we as a small jurisdiction have done. But they didn't accept our proposal. I don't know that there will be a lot of presentations on that subject this year. Since there haven't been in the last 2 years, I have no idea what they're going to do. But it is very, there's a boot camp for new board members that they do, that you go a couple days early. That's a really good boot camp for new board members if you'd like to attend, if anybody would like to attend. So that, I think, would probably start on the Thursday before. Is that right, Sherry? Okay. And then, like I say, and then the Saturday and Sunday conferences, you just sort of pick the sessions that you want to go to, and then it's interesting stuff, and I learn a lot. So certainly, I know we budget for 3 to go. So if anybody is interested in going, certainly speak up and let us know.
Madam Chair, and I did try to send some documentation, but the National School Board Association has nothing out yet.
Yeah, they don't have the documentation out yet, but we know we need to start getting our reservations early.
But as soon as I get that and all the hotels that are available, I'll email everybody, but just let me know.
But if you know now that you want to go.
I can actually go this year.
Okay.
So.
Like I say, I've gone the last 2 years, so I'm the last on the list, I think, if somebody else wants to go.
I don't want to go to Chicago. No way.
Okay. There's lovely things to do in Chicago too, Dave.
We're not getting shot.
Baseball? Once that comes out, I'll send it to everybody, and if something comes up that you're interested in.
Well, right now you've got Cassie, and like I say, think about it, check your schedules, see if anybody, if you want to go. And like I say, by default, if nobody else is going, then I will, because I find them very useful, but I want to give everybody else a chance first, so. Okay. Last but not least, policy BCA, which is our board organizational stuff and voting methods. I know we've worked on this a little bit.
Yeah, Madam Chair, we received notification from Wyoming School Boards Association. They sent us a draft policy, BEDF, B-E-D-F.
BEDF.
It is very similar to our policy, BDDF, which is our voting method. As I looked at what Copenhaver suggested, the bottom line is they've removed or put in language where you no longer can have a secret ballot. What we used to do when we reorganized is we'd have a ballot vote for president, vice president, treasurer. Again, there's been a court case, we cannot do that anymore. So that
It needs to be by voice vote.
It has to be by voice. And so the language needs to be modified. I went through our policies and found the only place that we talk about a secret ballot is in policy BCA.
Okay.
And that says, for election to the office, a nominee must receive a majority vote of the entire board. I missed that. The method of election of officers shall be by voice unless the board determines immediately prior to the nominations to use another method, such as roll call or secret ballot. We have to take secret ballot out of that policy.
Okay.
So you'll see that next month. I do, I think the new policy or the draft policy does give some clarifications. The bottom line at first, if you guys just do a voice vote and it's an affirmative, it's an affirmative vote. There
Right,
is
but
no
if you don't know which is which, then you
Then
do a roll call, right?
And each person has an opportunity. It also gets into voting the new policy if you're not present. And they kind of clarify what we've already clarified in our policy. You have to be heard and you have to be able to hear. So you have to be online.
For
you have to be
electronic
able to hear.
meetings, right?
Yes. And so that's clarified in the voting method. So I think you'll also see policy BDDF in draft form next month, which will include the changes that have been recommended by Copenhagen or Wyoming School Board. That's what I wanted to tell you.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Good to know. All right, I think that was it for the discussion items.
Yes.
So we are now on to public comments. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak to the board? Anyone, Bueller? All right, closing that one. Now we're on to action items. We do have some personnel items. We need to approve some resignations and some new contracts.
We don't have any,
Okay,
so we need to skip that.
so we need to skip that. Early diploma request.
Madam Chair, members of the board, we haven't had one of these in a long time. When Dave and I were at the high school, there was a lot of these, mostly because we had 24 credits required and we had 32 possible. There were some policy changes, some credit changes, and graduation requirement, and really where the policy went is an early diploma. Because we were losing so many students, after a 7th semester, we made some changes. Bottom line, early diploma is they had to have an educational purpose why they wanted to graduate early. They still had to have 7 semesters of credit from the high school or equivalent. They had to have a senior English and a senior government. We moved those 2 to the senior year. It actually worked very well. We haven't had an early diploma request in many, many years. Hopefully, students are taking advantage of the opportunity to explore other career paths. That was
If
why
they get
we
an
did it.
early diploma, do they get out of that senior project?
No, they still have to do a senior project.
And that'd be
And
sore.
They have to meet all the requirements of AKF. This individual that has applied is a very nice young man, very intelligent. He will, by the end of the semester, finish a senior English and a senior government through independent study, home study, college courses. His academic explanation is unique, but I agree, he just needs to move on academically and instructionally. And he, like I said, he's a very intelligent young man.
Hey, any kid that's an ambitious like that and can get it done.
So our recommendation is that you approve
The early diploma.
his early diploma. It has been clearly explained to him and his mother that once you receive your diploma, you receive your diploma. They don't walk. So we'll give them a hug, give them a diploma in January, and they're on their way.
And we did that because.
Yeah, why do we do that? Why
We
can't we
used
let
to
them
let
come
them
back and,
walk.
why can't we let them
I
walk?
graduated early, they let me walk.
You did?
Yeah.
No, you did.
95.
Not since 2000.
No, that was later.
4K?
That's why, because of
We
you.
stopped that.
That's why we
yeah,
changed it.
But I was nice.
We changed that.
We changed it in
And no, I'm curious about why.
99.
No, why?
There's no control over them at that
There's
point,
no
is there?
control over those kids. There's nothing over their head in terms of a contract or an obligation.
So you think they're gonna come to graduation and be naughty?
Yes.
Yes.
Really?
They
A kid
could.
like this that's
We
worked
observed
that hard to
yes.
Really?
There's no
graduate early?
consequence. They already have a diploma in hand.
Okay.
And so part of it's the agreement. It is, like I said, you meet the requirements, you're done.
Right.
They accept that and move on.
All right.
And it's a good policy, too. We had problems at graduation for several years.
When the policy was changed in 99, it still took 4
Mhm.
years
Turn around.
to take care of some of those issues at graduation. Thank goodness we have.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
Wow, sounds like I missed out on the fun years.
So we recommend that you approve that.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the early diploma request?
So moved.
Second. Motion by Kay, second by Jenny. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. All right, now we have some student discipline, which is part of our discussion in executive
We
session.
have first,
Special education.
excess special
Oh, yeah,
education.
sorry, I'm sorry, I skipped. Excess special education equipment. We're getting rid of some equipment.
Yeah, Madam Chair, there is a list. Matt Williams is not here today. What he basically told me is it's junk. So we're just getting rid of some excess junk. Because it's special ed, typically there's federal funds involved and you have to go through a formal process of accessing them.
I mean, we don't donate this, we just sort of recycle this and call it good.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the excess educate, or the disposal of excess education equipment?
Second that motion.
Motion by Jenny, second by Dave.
Mhm.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Now we're on the student discipline.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I'd recommend that you approve the student discipline that was discussed in executive session that is presented by Principal Lester. That's our recommendation.
Do we have a-
separating the two?
It's just one for right now.
The one? Okay.
I move that we approve the student discipline as has been recommended by Mr. Lester.
Do you have a second?
Second.
A second by Kay. We're not going to discuss this one, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. So we have 3 nays and
Can I
6.
name the name?
Call for division of the House, Chairman.
Or roll call vote. No, oh, Krista's an abstention, sorry. So go ahead and let's do roll call, Cassie.
Yay.
Caleb?
I can't hear you.
Yay.
Yay? Okay.
Yay.
Yay?
Yay.
Nay? That's a no for me.
No for you, okay?
Krista's abstaining.
Yay for me.
No for Jenny.
No for Russell.
And Dave was a yes?
Okay, the motion carries 6-3. Or 5-3, sorry, thank you. I keep wanting to count you, Krista. All right, and the last but not least, we have the Region 5 lease for Region 5 BOCES. This is obviously the Curlin building, I'm
Yes.
assuming?
This is just an extension of the lease with a little added. They had requested more space, we were able to provide it, and so the lease went up.
Okay.
Based on the square footage. It is a competitive, I believe, lease in terms of office space, and they've been a very, very good leasee, and if there's been damage, they've taken care of it.
Okay, Madam Chairman, I move that we approve Region 5 BOCES lease approval.
Madam Chair, I got a comment if I can.
Well, let's get a second first, and then I'll get to you. Do we have a second on the motion?
Second.
Second by Jenny. All right, go ahead.
So if we look at section 5.1A, monthly rent in the sum of $1,200 is also identified as $1,800. So that needs to be modified.
Yes, it does.
It is 1,800.
Yes, so, but in writing, it
Yeah, no,
identifies it as,
right.
yes,
Recognizes
so,
it.
okay.
Yeah, so.
We'll modify that.
Yeah, he's right. We got a good catch, man. I missed that one.
More discussion?
Yes, sir.
This is the third year that they've leased that?
I think it's second.
Second year that they've leased the Curlin? Were they looking for some other place, or they just settled into the Curlin? And
I
did
think
we
right now
have,
they're happy with the Curlin,
Yeah.
and I don't know if there's another.
we have no use for it?
Well, we always have a use for it. We still maintain a portion of that facility, which is the old shop area. That's still ours. Storage itself, we could use another 10 buildings, but in terms of a good usage, I mean, if there is an interest of not leasing it to these individuals in the future, this gives them at least a year to find another space. We've been approached by others too, but it wouldn't be the length of lease. They only want a partial, they wanted to use partial space, and it wouldn't have helped the BOCES or us. It would have just probably confused things, so,
Did we completely nix the idea of an auxiliary gym in there?
no.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I know that certainly BOCES 5 understands that when we as a district want to use the building, we're going to use the building, and they're going to have to find someplace else, but.
It's a 30-day break lease.
Right.
Agreement, it's pretty standard.
Because I know we had discussed that before.
Absolutely.
And we have a need for that.
No, I mean, that was the big discussion when we did the lease in the first place, is that they have to understand that if we give them the 30-day notice, because we need it, and we have plans for it, then that's.
And again, I would love to have a situation where we had so many students that we needed some extra space. Unfortunately, that's not there.
We're not there yet.
But it could, you never know.
It could happen.
How many students are there, Mr. Thomas?
It ranges, I'd say from 2 to 5.
Average.
Depending on the time of year. Staff, 2 to 5 probably, more like 5.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the lease for BOCES 5, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We are down to board roundtable. Who wants to start? Wow, crickets.
Yeah, we're cricketed up.
Well, I just want to compliment all of the staff and the principals for, again, working so hard on the PLCs and everything else, and the new curriculum, and we recognize the growth, we recognize what's happening, and we really appreciate it. So it's exciting to see numbers to go with that, and, hope to see more. And, if Horizon High School can get into the blue, so can everybody else. Right?
Right.
Okay. All right, with that, I believe I need a motion to
I'm moving
adjourn.
we adjourn, Madam Chairman.
Okay, no discussion, all those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Jenny. And you should have your little new pass.
Your activity pass? Did everybody get theirs?
You have stuff for everyone to sign?
Yes.
Sherry has stuff that everyone needs
It's
to
right
sign.
there, up there.
Back in the day.
It will always save you if you go to games and read.
Just the-
Just say